All right. Okay, I'm going to move my participant window to the side. And again, my name is Jeff Domanski. I want to welcome you all here to our first of our public information meetings for the Community Choice Aggregation program that the Town of Gardiner is in the exploration phase. And it is very much, we're in very much the exploration phase to make sure that this makes sense for the community members of Gardiner. And again, thank you. Everyone seems to be doing a great job of keeping themselves muted, keeping video off, just so that we have a nice, smooth connection to present today. There will be time for questions. I'm going to talk about these items that are on my agenda slide today. I'm going to give you a 101 level understanding about what community choice aggregation, or very commonly abbreviated CCA, is. So talking about what it is and even the why it is. And it's a very common question, why this is happening, why the community is considering doing this. And there are active examples of programs happening here in the Hudson Valley. And so the organization that Gardiner has chosen to be the administrator of this program that will potentially launch is a company called Joule. That's the Joule word in the second bullet. They're a company based in Westchester that focuses on these programs. And I am their local program partner. I'm a nonprofit. Our program is Hudson Valley Energy, and we're here to support the program. And I'm just going to jump over here to make sure I'm keeping people muted just while we're doing the presentation. And so we're going to talk about, just in brief, a slide each on the active programs. One of the active programs you'll hear is relevant for Gardiner because it's going to be the other partner communities. And then there are the next steps for new communities that are considering launching a CCA, including what happens if the decision is made to launch the program. And so I'll talk about that. So there'll be plenty of details. And then there's a slide where I do a wrap up of questions, but definitely will be time to let you folks answer questions. So thank you for keeping yourselves on mute during this presentation, but there will be time for questions afterwards. All right, so let me jump in and start talking about what is community choice aggregation and explaining why it is. And this is looks like a poem, the way we've broken out this statement, this sentence describing what it is. And there will be detail for each of the separate lines coming up on slides, just so you know why it's formatted this way. But put in a simple way, community choice aggregation is a policy. It's enabled in New York State in 2016. And it's a policy that enables municipalities and cities, towns, and villages to determine default energy offerings for their community members, including electricity supply and something you guys, many of you may have heard about, community choice solar, on behalf of its residents and small businesses. So this is not something the municipality is doing for itself. It's something it's doing on behalf of its community members. And in a nutshell, they're doing this because there are lots of opportunities in the energy marketplace, and it can be overwhelming. And so the idea of this program, or one of the main ideas of this program, is to offer a package of simple benefits to the community to take advantage of. And it is an opportunity. It's a choice. It's an additional choice. And you'll hear the word that this is an opt-out program. A lot of people have talked about that, and it is true. It's allowed to operate. It's kind of a fundamental element that when it launches, and if it launches for Gardiner, it is an opt-out program, but it is a new choice, and anybody could say they don't want it at any time. But it's the opt-out nature that allows it to be the win-win-win scenario in terms of price and the offering of renewables and the elements of consumer protection that are fundamental to what the program offers. And it's important to know that this policy about energy offerings, it's based on the same opportunity that's been available in New York State since the late 1990s. This is getting a little bit into the weeds, but New York State, as well as many other states, and you might have heard talk about Texas, but New York State, in conjunction with a number of other states, deregulated the energy markets. That meant really that they broke up the monopoly that utility companies had on the creation, supply, and delivery of energy, both gas and electricity. And because of that deregulation, because they broke up the ability for the utility companies to make money on supply, they are still the delivery companies. So since the late 1990s, Central Hudson and every other utility company is a delivery company, kind of like UPS or FedEx. They deliver packages that someone else makes. Because of that breakup, there is a whole marketplace for supply. And many people may have taken advantage of that marketplace, gotten into a contract with Ambit, a Viridian, a Green Mountain Energy, which are supply companies that allow people to enter into a contract for supply, which they may have done for one of two main reasons: for cost savings, or in the case of, for example, Green Mountain Energy, to support renewable energy. So those are two reasons that people have taken advantage of this marketplace. So let me revisit that before I dig into the poem that is the statement into more detail. So what am I talking about with electricity supply? You're going to see this slide coming up later, more filled in, this table. But this is what life is like in a community before community choice aggregation. This is the electricity supply opportunities before a CCA program is launched. And because of New York State law and New York State mandate, there's two choices stemming from deregulation. The first option that a utility customer has in terms of supply, not delivery, Central Hudson never goes away, but in terms of the choice about where your electricity comes from, the first choice that somebody has is to make no choice. And that's number one. And that is the utility company makes that decision for its customers as a pass-through cost. So Central Hudson, if it's making that decision for somebody who is not taking advantage of number two in this table, it is something they do not make money on, but it is something they'll do by state default. So that is the state-determined default condition. But anybody can, at any time, and you can do this through the Central Hudson website, find a third-party supplier or an energy supply company, commonly abbreviated ESCO. And that is the market option that was created by deregulation. And many, many people have tried the open marketplace. And so those, again, before a CCA program launches, those are the two choices. And to foreshadow what my box will look like on the bottom, that's where CCA will go as a third choice. And the asterisk that's on Central Hudson will move because it does become the new default. And instead of what the state determined, it would or could be what the town, the place you live has determined as your supply option. But again, all of these choices are available to everybody at any time. So getting back to my definition. All right, so again, community choice aggregation is a policy that enables municipalities. And so this is, again, cities and towns and villages. That's what we're talking about. They have to pass a local law. If I'm looking at the bullets at the bottom of the slide, so there has to be a local law passed that enables them to do the exploration and potentially launch a community choice aggregation program. And it is regulated. It's enabled by the New York State Public Service Commission. So this is not the Wild West. This was enabled by a Public Service Commission order, and every activity that we do to launch and run a program is overseen and ultimately needs approval of the Public Service Commission. So that's significant when it comes particularly to protecting consumers and making sure that that there's satisfactory outcomes for the members of the communities. All right, so that's what we're talking about in municipalities. Now, what are we talking about the next line? To determine default energy offerings. And again, revisiting what I talked about before, currently Central Hudson and the state determine the default energy offering, but somebody can go into that choice too if they want. Community choice, if it launches, creates local control over energy decisions. It becomes the new default offering. Everyone is eligible to receive that default offering unless they choose not to participate. So if it launches for anybody that was in choice one in my table before, where the Central Hudson was making their supply decision, they are considered eligible unless they're in a bill pay assistance program, which we can talk about later. But they are the folks who are considered eligible and are automatically included in the program if it launches and have to choose not to participate. Anybody who had choice two on that table, anybody who has a current contract, they stay in their contract. This program does not kick them out of a choice that they've made in the marketplace. This just presents a new option. So the fourth and fifth line of my statement about what community choice aggregation is. So it's a policy enabling municipalities to determine default energy offerings, including electricity supply and community choice solar. So this is representing the fact that there's a couple of options underneath the community choice aggregation policy umbrella. And I'll talk about this quite a bit. This is the first time I'll talk about it to make the distinction, but we're talking about two separate opportunities that are possible under a program. The first is about electricity supply, what I've mostly been talking about. And we're talking, so in this case, it's the source of electrons, what you're paying for in terms of where those electrons are made. And so the electricity supply, if under a community choice aggregation, allows the town's decision, aggregated with other towns to get the power of numbers, to replace the current source of electrons with those selected by the municipality in conjunction with the other partner communities. Community choice solar, it's an opportunity through the CCA, but it is something a lot of folks have probably heard about. There's a lot of companies out there that are marketing very heavily to encourage people. And this is where you can subscribe. There's a couple of different models, but the most common model is you can subscribe to a solar field, a field of solar panels that's somewhere else, and receive bill credits from that local solar farm for a guaranteed savings. All right, so I'll go into some more details, but so create two separate brain spaces, if you will, for what is underneath community choice aggregation. All right, the last line, so on behalf of its residents and small businesses, this is, up to a certain class, one that does not have a demand meter is automatically included. And again, people have to choose not to participate, but they can do so at any time. Anybody can choose not to participate at any time. All right, I heard somebody join. Just want to make sure that everyone is muted, if you don't mind. I'm going to go and just make sure to mute. Again, please do use the chat window if you have questions, and I will leave time at the end for questions. All right, back to the presentation. So here's my table again, the one on the left that you saw before, the electricity supply options. And I call this my menu slide. It's like a menu in a restaurant where the left might be the appetizers and the right might be the entrees. And you get to choose one from each of these menu columns. So our electricity supply should be familiar. And as I promised, CCA, or the Community Choice Aggregation Electricity Supply Choice, which was made collectively by the partner communities with the help of the administrator, now becomes the new default option. But again, anybody can reject it, even if they're automatically included. Anybody could also opt in. Somebody who's in choice 2 when a program starts can, if they want to, if they like the rate that the program gets, they can end their contract. And we always encourage them to make sure there's no prohibitive fees to do so, but they can end and join our CCA at any time. But anybody at any time can always end it and just go with Central Hudson as their choice. Now, similarly, for clarity's sake, there is a similar menu for solar decisions on the right. And just like entrees and appetizers in a restaurant, you can mix and match any way you want. The choices that people have in terms of solar, pretty much encapsulating all the choices currently that people could do, are one, to do nothing about solar, or choice A, to do nothing about solar on the right side. You don't have to do anything about solar. Or what's been most familiar to a lot of people, you can choose to install solar on your home or business, actually physically having a system on your roof or on your property in a net metering arrangement. If you want to do something about solar, so you want to reject choice A, but you don't, or you can't do choice B, you can do choice C, community solar. And again, that's where you subscribe, you become a virtual owner of a portion of solar panels that's in a field of solar that's in the same utility territory. So it's a way to have virtual ownership and basically have a really wonderful benefit in terms of guaranteed savings, a credit, a reduction on your electricity bill. But again, you can't do community solar if you have solar already on your home or business. All right, so that's my distinction. Now let's keep going forward here. So revisiting what the benefits are. And instead of side by side, I've stacked boxes here. The top one is still talking about electricity supply. So using a community choice aggregation program for electricity supply. The bottom blue box is about community choice solar. And what are the benefits? Two benefits in electricity supply. What it was established to do was to provide access to more affordable priced renewable electricity. So if you might remember when I talked about the reasons that people go into that energy marketplace, that choice 2 in the box on the electricity supply menu, they were looking for, typically in the past, to save money or to get renewables, which typically cost more. Community choice aggregation was structured to allow those two things to come together, to save money or to get a very competitive rate for renewable electricity. So it's kind of like that idea of a win-win, or having your cake and eat it too. And it does, this is the only way we do this, is through a fixed rate. It's a fixed rate for a fixed period of time. And after that, it's got to be all done again. It can't be something that gets away from people and turns crazy. So it's a fixed rate, so it reduces price volatility through that fixed rate contract. The idea is to make this as transparent as possible. The energy space is complex. It's, you know, even for people who work in it every day, there's a lot going on. I say that energy is a second language for everybody. So we understand there's a lot here, but the idea of this program is to, as much as possible, make it as simple as possible. And an additional benefit, which I'll mention, is that we're here as a team. If this program goes forward, my nonprofit organization, Working with Jewel, is here to answer questions and help people in or out of the program, or answer other questions about opportunities at any time. So please know that, and do not hesitate to ask questions. That's what we're here for. So the second box on the bottom, community choice solar. The main benefit, putting it in one statement, it's guaranteed savings by supporting a local solar project. And these are non-conflicting opportunities. That's confusing for people too. People think that when you sign up for a community solar farm, it is your electricity supply choice. It's not. That's not the way it works. By signing up for community solar, you are helping that developer meet the state requirements by getting subscribers that he needs or she needs for that project. And in return, you get a credit, a monetary credit that's based on how much is produced. It's not what you pay for through your supply section of your bill, which I'll show you again. I'll show you my bill coming up to reemphasize where and how this works. But it's not, you know, the monthly payment you make for how much electricity you use in terms of where that electricity comes from. On the right side, I emphasize for both of these programs, it's about consumer protection by the fact that this team, this consultant team, negotiates the terms and conditions, making sure that it's very as transparent as possible. It's a fixed rate. It's no minimum participation. It's very consumer friendly. And this is going to be done all through Central Hudson's bill, one bill. So you'll see how it works. The electricity supply and solar credits, it says National Grid, forgive me, this is an upstate slide I stole, but it will say Central Hudson bill. That's what it should say. I didn't even notice that. So here's my promised image of my bill. I live in Beacon. I'm in Beacon right now. So this is my Central Hudson bill. And this is good for a lot of reasons, looking at this bill. It shows that there are 3 sections on this very detailed page of my bill. It shows that first, and not in a red box, at the top of the image is the delivery charges section. And you can see it ends with total electric delivery charges. And for that month that I'm showing, it was $87.08. All of these line items are the charges that Central Hudson makes money. And that is for being a delivery company. It includes a basic meter charge, and the taxes are in there, but basics, that's my basic service charge for having a meter at $20. But there's my usage times all these different line items, all adding up to delivery. And that is unaffected by our program, either of the two opportunities under this program. There is a supply section. This is what we're talking about for community choice aggregation electricity supply. If Central Hudson is making the choice for you, there would be 3 line items in this section. Similar, less than up above, but still 3 different line items multiplied by my usage, which was 761 kilowatt hours this particular month. But here I am part of a community choice aggregation program that the city of Beacon entered into along with 9 other communities. I've been in it since 2019, and there's our fixed rate. It's just, and this is the same rate every month of the program. And it's a 2-year program, and we're coming up on the end of this in the middle of 2021. But this is $6.361 or $0.06361 per kilowatt hour, or 6.361 cents per kilowatt hour. Same supply rate every month, multiplied by whatever my usage is that month, gives me my total supply charges. It shows the name of the company, the supply company that we picked as an aggregation, as a collection of communities. And the name of that company is Direct Energy. And you'll see their logo on the program partnership slide that I'll show you in a few minutes. But so it doesn't say you're in a community choice aggregation. It doesn't have the name of our aggregation program, which happens to be Hudson Valley Community Power. You'll see that too. By the way it works with Central Hudson, they only show the name of the supply company chosen. But that's where it lives on my bill and how the CCA program works, right there in the Central Hudson bill. If, as I have done, you choose to subscribe to Community Solar, it shows up down here in the payments and adjustments section. And the fancy name for it, for Community Solar generally in the state, because it could be hydropower too, is Community Distributed Generation, and it's a credit. And you can see on my bill, that's a minus $81.01. That means that in this particular month, my portion of a solar field, which is, they told me this happens to be over by Route 9 in Wappingers, it generated electricity that resulted in $81 savings off of my bill that month. And so that is applied against my charges up above to result in a total charge on my bill. So that's where it lives. So to emphasize, they live in two separate sections. You can do one or the other. You can do neither if you don't want to do either of these, as I showed on the menu slide. But as on my bill, you could do both. And this is where they live. All right, so going into what is the implementation process? You know, what does it look like for a community that's considering doing a CCA program? It begins, as I mentioned above, with adopting an enabling local law, step one. And step two, which Gardiner has chosen, is to select a CCA administrator to administer the program. And again, that was Jewel, and I'm their partner, I'm their nonprofit program manager. And that let us start what is the state required, but we go way beyond it, but a public education and outreach and education period. And that's where we are right now. We're just in the start of this. And it's going to be at least a couple of months, and we're going to do a lot of this. And so even though we don't have the date of the next one, again, if you want to receive notices about future events, you know, the other public events we'll be doing in Gardiner and the other partner communities, please put your email in the chat window, and I'll let you know about those other events. But we're going to be doing a lot in terms of getting the word out. We will have public meetings you can come to, but we're just starting out in our request to come to you. To come, if you have a group or you want to have an individual conversation, we have a program helpline that you can call us and talk, or we will come and present for as much time as you'll give us about our program. So that has to happen. Then there's a regulatory approval period. And we not have, and then there's a bid. We go out to the marketplace to get a rate to find out what works. You know, if the state has approved the outreach that we've done, and then we can go out and ask for, get ready to ask for prices from the suppliers that would be interested in being our supplier. And that right there, the reason we have the big explosion right here saying this is the go or no go point. Before this point, this is all part of the exploration, and just to see what makes sense. And the town helps determine what its minimum requirements are for going forward, including what it will accept as a rate on behalf of its community members and where it's sourced, and making sure that that any terms, any requirements or lack of requirements are baked into the program. If those requirements are met from the bids that are put out there, then there's a bid award, and then the contract gets executed at the town level. So no community member is ever in a contract. So there's complete flexibility. You know, this is truly like a public benefit, like a public swimming pool that's being, you know, created on behalf of the residents. That is the go, no go point. You know, so crossing this line here is where the program moves forward to launch. But we're still very much before that, still exploring whether this makes sense. And so, you know, this is a great time to learn and to give feedback. Then once the award happens, there is more education and outreach that is done, which leads us into an opt-out period. And then that includes a letter that's sent to every eligible customer. That's part of the outreach for launching. And then there is a period where people are not included. They have time to say, I don't want to be part of this. And they can say that in a 30-day period. But again, anybody could opt out of this at any time. But then ultimately, after that, people are enrolled and the program launches. So this is my promised section to talk about existing programs. All of the communities, these 10 communities shown here in the bullet list in the lower left, our community partners, are the partners in the Hudson Valley Community Power program. Okay, that's Hudson Valley Community Power is a partnership. And I apologize, I know that's similar to my name, Hudson Valley Energy. That's my nonprofit program supporting this. But this is the name of the partnership, Hudson Valley Community Power. And this is an aggregation that the town of Gardiner, Rhinebeck, Saugerties, and Nelsonville are new communities are exploring adding to in 2021. It is going to be a new rate for all of these programs. Currently, the 10 programs are with direct energy, as you saw from my utility bill. And we had that program rate that I showed you. But these 10 communities are coming up. We're in the last quarter of that 2-year program. And so we're going to do it again. We're going to go back out to the marketplace, and there'll be a whole new announcement about a new program if the bid that comes back from a supplier meets the requirements, and that we collectively pick one that meets the requirements of the program. And we now, because of some changes that happened in Central Hudson, can offer, and we are exploring this with the communities, the additional opportunity to do the opt-out community solar as well. So this is, for those, if it all works out, the program going forward that will have possibly, I hope, all 10 of these communities plus these other 4 communities. That'll be the new partnership of Community Power, Hudson Valley Community Power. There is a website already for this program, hudsonvalleycommunitypower.com. And there's social media ways you can follow and get information and updates on the program. But I do encourage folks to go here. There's lots of FAQs. I hope very good explanations about what's happening and how it works for the program. So please do visit that. And our contact information is there as well as in the program here. Oops, how did that happen? Let me get back to my slide. Okay, hope everyone can still see that. I don't know what that jump was. Back up. All right, so again, emphasizing the logos though, this is all in Central Hudson territory. I'd like to include Central Hudson's logo on the slide so people realize we're not replacing Central Hudson. It's all done with them, through their bill and with their support. So if there's a power outage, Central Hudson is still the delivery company. They are still the ones to fix the lines and if there's any disruption. So they're the job they've gotten paid for the last 20 odd years is still the job they do. Here are the program partners. Here's Jewel. There's their logo, the administrator, my organization, and there's, as I promised, Direct Energy. So together, this is the partnership that is the program. You're going to see another very similar looking slide coming up, and it's for a second aggregation that we launched just this past fall in Orange and Rockland territory. So we've got really great experience right here in the Hudson Valley running programs, and demonstrating that this works. So just to revisit though, what are the program benefits of the program to date, the Hudson Valley Community Power Program? It has yielded, this is the win-win-win slide showing in terms of environmental benefit, cost benefit, the program rates, and consumer protection. There are numerous elements under each of these 3 major categories of why this is a beneficial program. For the program to date, the Hudson Valley Community Power Program, for those 10 communities, it represented about 25,000 households in those 10 communities that have all chosen to go with the default 100% renewable electricity rate. And that's renewables, hydro, it turns out at this point, though solar and wind are slated to come online for community choice aggregation programs, but it's 100% renewable electricity. Because of that, more than 200,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions were avoided to date through the program. And this does send very powerful market signals immediately and in the near term and in the long term for changing the mix of fuel on the New York State grid. Program rates, again, the benefits are it is a low fixed supply rate, which is too competitive with non-utility rates, for the non-renewable utility rates. And when we talked about that second option, this is definitely better than what people can get for a comparable package, for a comparable supply rate without a contract. You do need a contract for those. So you can't beat this, in essence, this is a buying club like Costco or BJ's Wholesale. That's what we're doing here through this power being led by the community partnership. In terms of consumer protection, which is no little thing, because a lot of people have had bad experiences in the energy marketplace. They've had there's been great experiences that people have had, but many people have had bad experiences with strange fixed supply rates that turn variable, with contract exit fees, with subscription fees, with being put in, in things that were just not very transparent and understanding. There is no contract. There's no participation restrictions here. Nobody has to stay in this for any time. It is a low fixed supply rate, and it is fixed. It's not like a pilot program. By design, it's a fixed period that has to be repeated so that people aren't stuck in an endless contract. And there are other consumer protection elements that we might get to, but we're here to support it. There's a team behind this program to support the program. So that's that's no insignificant benefit to this. So there's lots to navigate here. So this is a benefit that we bring. I'm just muting somebody to make sure. All right, so moving forward, just to emphasize who the team is again and to explain the roles. Again, Jewel is the state approved administrator. It's one of the 4 approved administrators to be a community choice aggregation administrator in the state. That means they filed a plan indicating exactly how they were going to roll out these programs and what they wanted to do with it. And it had to be approved by the Public Service Commission. So they are the one that is the entity that's authorized to represent the municipality throughout the CCA process. And they do a lot for the New York State Energy Research Development Authority in terms of helping expand and what these programs are for other communities as well. And they're doing other CCA programs in New York State. And their model is to go above and beyond the outreach and support requirements that the state requires. And they do that by including a local program manager, a local nonprofit, to be there throughout the program and to be a resource to the communities and to be behind a helpline. And that's me, that's my team. So we are a local nonprofit, and we lead the outreach and education and customer support through the launch and afterwards. We don't go away for better or for worse, we're here. And so we support all the partner communities for the duration of the programs. And we are focused on doing sustainability services to small and medium organizations. And we focus on and recognize the importance of people's awareness and knowledge in this. So that is our mission, is promoting people-powered sustainable communities. Now, I promised you this slide that was going to look a lot similar to the Hudson Valley Community Power slide, and this is just to emphasize that we are doing this as well in Orange and Rockland territory. This is the Rockland Community Power Partnership. That's a program that launched in the fall of 2020 with these 6 communities: Clarkstown, Orangetown, and these 4 villages: Nyack, South Nyack, Upper Nyack, and the village of Haverstraw. It's in Orange and Rockland territory, still the delivery company. Jewel's still there as the administrator. I'm still there as the local program manager, but together we didn't pick Direct Energy for this contract. We picked a company called Constellation, and we restrict what they have to do through the program. That's the benefit of this program. So you have this team, including the community leadership, making sure that they deliver exactly what they need to deliver per our requirements. There is a separate website for that program too. It looks very similar in terms of content to the Hudson Valley Community Power Program, but it's another resource that I do encourage people to check out. So timing wise, I put back the same implementation process slide, but to let you know the timing that we're working on. Again, this is exploration. This is not guaranteed we're going to launch, but if things work as we expect them to, we are showing to the right now in the public outreach and education period. And that's going to go right through April 2021. But at that point, we will issue the request for proposals, a bid for default energy offerings, with the intent that in about May, we will, if things work out, accept one. That's the go, no-go point again. But if things work out, that's going to happen in May, meaning that we can start to enroll people and launch the program with a letter going out to everybody in a 30-day opt-out period in June of 2021. So the program starts to be shown on those customers who stay in the program in July 1st of 2021. So that's the timeline that we're working on for Gardiner, if it works out. So what happens next? We are still in that first phase of community education. It continues for Gardiner and our other partner communities, in particular Rhinebeck and Saugerties and we completed for Nelsonville. But again, put your email in there if you want to know about the public events, which we'll be scheduling for those other communities. There will be lots, so there's lots of opportunity. Then we will go out for bid for electricity supply, and for those communities that want to include it, the opt-out community choice solar. After, and if and after there is a winning bid that meets the criteria, there is additional outreach and education before the program launches. And that's when we know what the price will be. That's what we know what the term will be and the savings and the sources will be. At this point, we still don't know what it is. I mean, I know what it is for the existing program, Hudson Valley Community Power, but that's going to end on June 30th. So for the new program, we're going to know after the bid's accepted. And again, after that, that's when a letter is mailed to all eligible residents and small businesses, and it comes from the town with the town seal, and it comes from the supervisor. And it describes the price, the term, the savings, and the source. It includes a program, frequently asked questions, and it has explicit instructions about how to not be part of the program if somebody doesn't want to be part of the program, which are these methods. These are the multiple program opt-out options. So you can opt out by either, there is a prepaid envelope in the mailing that you can just send back to say you don't want to be part of it. We have our program helpline, 845-859-9099. There's on the websites that I showed you, there's a form there now. It's called the enrollment/change form. So somebody could either change a rate or opt out of the program there too, or opt in. Oh, you can do it in person, like in the good old days. If you have, we would do public meetings, we could take information there. And we do have email, and people could send their information to us by email. So there's numerous methods, any one of them sufficient, not all of them, any one of them sufficient to opt out of the program, or as those little asterisks on this slide say, anyone could opt into the program. And again, it's at any time. So we're right at the end here. I'm just going to revisit some common questions that are very, very common from our previous engagements with folks, and we've done lots. So a common concern or question people have is, does this replace my utility company? Does this replace Central Hudson? And I think you realize that no, this is all done through their utility bill. It's a line item change for both the supply and the community solar, if that is chosen. Why are you doing this? Why couldn't you leave well enough alone? How can you do this? Again, it was established through a Public Service Commission order to allow towns to take this lead for the public benefit 3 goals that we talked about above. The ability to bring together a competitive rate for renewables with consumer protection built into it. Will this save me money? Is that why you're doing it? There's 2 answers. There's 2 separate programs. For the supply portion of the program, we anticipate, or it had been our goal, to get 5 to 10% better than people had paid for non-renewables on average from the utility, but it's not guaranteed. The one risk of the program for the supply portion is that the fixed rate is a fixed rate and the utility rate varies. And so the one risk is that what happens if the rate stays lower than your program rate? That is possible. And if that is the case, people can opt out of the program anytime. Will this save me money in terms of community solar? Simply put, yes. It's kind of a no-brainer to do that one. Next question, am I locked into this for the duration of the contract? No, anyone can exit freely at any time. What happens after the supply contract ends? This is a question that comes to us for the experiences that people have had in the supply marketplace, where the challenges have happened, where people have been stuck in a contract or the terms variable. Again, this is structured to be consumer protective. The rate will not go crazy after the contract ends. It's always a fixed rate. The program can be repeated, but as is happening for the 10 communities in the Hudson Valley Community Power Program, they're going through the repeat process. They're going out for a new bid. Where does the energy come from is a common question. For supply, there is a requirement that renewables to qualify, have to be from New York State. Hydropower, wind power, solar power, those are the ones that we would allow in our program, though the other administrators might allow biomass, but we don't include that. For community solar, it's even closer to home. While the supply portion has to be New York State sourced renewables, community solar has to be right in the same utility territory. So these are solar farms in Central Hudson territory. All right, so those are my common questions. And now I'm going to encourage you to come off mute if you want, and I'm going to revisit the chat box here to see what questions we have. Going back up. Good, I see a future email. Make sure I go to the top. All right, let me go all the way up. All right, there's a thank you, I think. Yes, recorded. I did record it, and we're still recording. No question from Lillian. If a consumer was in an ESCO situation buying energy from Veridian or some other provider, will the CCA contact that provider on behalf of the consumer to cancel or provide an easy way to do that? The answer to that is no. No, we don't contact that provider on your behalf. We do this outreach and education, and we will do our best to let everyone know about the program. But somebody who's for the supply portion of the program, somebody who's in an existing contract will not receive the letter when the program starts because they're automatically opted out. But we hope and we'll do our darndest to get the word out so that those folks know that they can take advantage of this if they want to. And we encourage them to contact their third-party supplier, like Veridian, make sure there's no penalty, no prohibitive penalty for exiting. And if not, to tell them that they want to exit, and then they can give us their information and opt in. And it takes about one billing cycle, so that's how it works. And then Melissa asked, so if I own the panels on my roof, I cannot take part in this. Again, two programs. It's a yes and a no. So if you have panels on your roof, you can take advantage of the supply portion of the program, the buying club to get a fixed supply rate. As a solar owner, you'll get less benefit of that because you probably don't pay for much electricity, if at all. But when you do, the rate you would pay would be the program rate, which does not affect the rate that you get paid for excess production. That's in the contract you have already with the provider and or Central Hudson. On the community solar side, that's what I was saying. If you have solar panels on your roof, you can't sign up for community solar. So that's the no. All right, so I hope that's clearer. Question from Michael. Don't some ESCOs also give the guaranteed 10% savings? There are other community solar providers, and this is for community solar providers when I'm talking about 10%. And yes, there are lots of companies that are using that 10% benefit. And we're not discouraging anybody from taking advantage of it as soon as possible because don't wait for this program to start saving 10% off your electricity charges. But it is a very common model. But we just encourage more people to understand that it is a good opportunity. But also we do, through the program, we do make sure that the contract is very consumer friendly. But explore other opportunities and use our criteria as a bar to measure other potential opportunities. Don't just look at the 10% reduction, savings. Also look at their minimum participation, make sure there's no fees, no subscription fees. That's something to do, and that's what we do through a partnership. All right, Michael also asked, thank you for your future emails. I'll make sure I make note of that. Then Lillian says, I already am a direct energy customer. I joined for 100% renewable energy. I received a report a few months ago with a breakdown of the various activities from which the renewable source energy is derived. Among those listed, nuclear. Yeah, some people consider nuclear renewable. Natural gas and coal were enlarged, and then the solar, wind, or hydro. That's very interesting. I know nuclear can be considered renewable by some suppliers, but not by our program. And so this is a really good example of if you will, the restrictions that we put on the suppliers. I'm sorry, somebody, if you can, I'm hearing some typing. You guys don't mind muting? I think I found it. Okay. This is a really good example. What direct energy offers. Direct energy can be engaged by an individual for the program and set up an individual contract with a separate rate from our program. But I think if I read this correctly, their definition of renewables is wider and potentially problematic with nuclear than what we accept as renewable. So for our program, they have to give us exactly what we tell them they have to give us. And that's what we do. We restrict them to do what we need them to do. So I think it's a great question to point out that difference, that you can use direct energy separately, but we handcuff them into what we want. And it says, what assurance is there that the source will be better with CCA through direct energy? Well, for that, the way I just described it, it's we make sure that that's the requirement and they have to provide to us. And it's becoming a powerhouse. These administrators in these CCA programs have leverage with these supply companies. They don't want to mess up because this is a significant way the grid is being transformed in New York State. All right, I'm almost done with the questions in the chat box, but I'll give questions opportunities in a second to everybody. But Michael, if the chosen supplier has an outage Will Central Hudson fill in from another? There's always sufficient purchases. That's the thing about the program. There is forward bidding that takes place for the program. And so there is sufficient, they buy even in excess and have the ability to get more. There always is sufficient supply for the program. So there's not a need to go back out, especially to non-renewable sources, if you are a member of our program in the 100% renewable rate. Let's see, on a monthly, Andy asks, on a monthly basis, can we see the net difference of what this program is saving me or costing me? We don't do a summation every month of the usage multiplied by the rate difference. We do keep, every month we publish on my site, the hudsonvalleyenergy.org page, the rate differences. We show our fixed rate and we show the varying rate from Central Hudson so people can see the difference in rates. Central Hudson, actually, I know since when their rate's been lower, does share that on their bill. And they do it for other individual ESCOs as well, just saying what the difference was. And we do an annual reporting, kind of a roll-up, not an individual customer again, but across the program by community. We do look at the difference in terms of what our program cost or saved. But again, at hudsonvalleyenergy.org, which is my website, we do keep that rolling information, and I include that chart when we continue to do outreach and education, so people know how the program's doing, just in terms of rate differences. Let's see. Then it's Jim asks, you say solar is 100% renewable. What happens at night when there is no sun? Do you buy hydropower from Hydro-Quebec in Canada? This again is, gets into the weeds of how the energy marketplace works. There is two separate financial markets that exist in the energy marketplace, and this gets in the detailed world, and this this explains why we're valuable as a resource, because we've definitely gotten this question before, and you'll forgive me for getting a little bit weedy in a second, but just to say that this kind of detail is a reason we have created separate accessible courses, free recordings and live presentations on understanding utility bills and understanding the way the grid works, including kind of the complexity in the marketplace. So in terms of this question about reliability, about the availability of the electrons to power, the supply contract, for the supply portion of the program, one of the reasons it can be competitive is because the supplier at that bid portion of the process, they know how much to anticipate in terms of participation. And so they forward bid, they buy up from the marketplace, and you probably have heard this with the stock market. They can forward bid and secure the numbers of electrons, one, and two, this separate marketplace for the attributes or the certificates associated with renewable production. And I know it's getting to the weeds, but so physically, there's no change in the delivery of electrons to your home. If you're part of the CCA or if you join a private ESCO, they don't hook you up to a separate line to electricity that's only renewable. You still get the electrons from the big web, the big tub, if you will, bathtub of electrons that is the New York State grid, which includes all the mixes of fuel sources. But what you pay for to verify or to be able to claim the renewable portion is the support through the certificate. You pay for this attribute that says that this electron that is powering my house coming from the whole New York State grid did come from a renewable source. Mostly to date hydropower, but as they are creating solar and they're creating wind projects for CCA programs, that it will, that you are paying for those electrons going into the mix. So that's where I was mentioning about how there's powerful market benefits immediately supporting those renewable producers. They get that extra money, which allows them to operate well and expand. And it's also sending advanced market signals into the grid. So more comes online. All right, let's see, is there any more questions? One more from Mark. Often ESCOs report all the sources of energy they use, and they don't separate their green customer supply from the standard supply mix. So that's a statement. So Mark says, often ESCOs report all the sources of energy they use, and they don't separate their green customer supply from the standard mix. Yeah, I'm not sure of the question there, but it's probably true. There is a reporting that comes from the ESCOs, and we do, receive from our supplier too, the verification on an annual basis. So that is the end of the chat questions. So please do feel free to unmute yourself now and ask a question. Are there other questions?
I have a question. This is Janet Kern.
Hey, Janet, sure.
Hi. All this seems geared to Central Hudson. I'm a resident of Gardiner, but my service company is New York State Electric and Gas. Can I still participate?
Yeah. Did you put your post on Facebook about this too, Janet?
No, I didn't. I tried to get through the chat thing, but it wasn't functioning. So
okay, I apologize. Yeah, I want to see. There was somebody who also posted on the Gardiner, New York Facebook site about being a NYSEG customer and being in Gardiner. And we were verifying. I think the majority, and we thought all people were Central Hudson. But if that is the truth, I think it's a very small proportion of the community that might be NYSEG customers. And let's have an individual conversation. If you don't mind, just you can just send me a photo or something. We can verify what your situation is. But if it is the case that you're in NYSEG territory, and it is a very small percentage, I fear you would not be included in the supply contract. I think predominantly it would be for Central Hudson. But that's not necessarily true, because Putnam Valley is also a community that's joining at the same time as Gardiner, Saugerties, Rhinebeck, and they are definitely in NYSEG territory. And there's lots of ways of slicing these programs. So I think we're going to go out to bid, and there might be a NYSEG price, but you might be, in that case, have a separate rate than what the rest of Gardiner has, if that's the case. So not a simple answer, I apologize, but let's talk further, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, hey Jeff, this is Franco.
Hey Franco. Hey Franco, so you know what I should have done, Franco? This is Franco,
Yes.
town board member of Gardiner. I should have introduced you. I saw you were here in the beginning, and
That's okay.
have you guys introduce at the beginning.
No problem. You did a great job. A question about the program letter that will go out from the town of Gardiner, as you indicated. Does that go to all Gardiner residents or only those that are deemed eligible for the program? So, for example, those that are in Central Hudson territory, those that aren't already contracted with another third-party ESCO, et cetera.
Yes, and the answer is yes. In the basic design of the program, we get the list of eligible customers, or actually, for data protection is very significant part of the consumer protection of this too. So utility account numbers are protected very strongly by the program. So we don't see them after the program officially launches. But the list of names and addresses for the utility company for the supplier to evaluate, they're provided by Central Hudson. So Central Hudson knows who the customers are for whom they are sourcing electricity, doing the supply choice. And so only those are included. So anyone in a third party is not included. Anyone who's in a bill pay assistance program, like the home energy assistance program, HEAP, not included, because we can't, the fixed rate is not a guarantee of savings. The same will be true, as I understand it, for the opt-out community solar, which is new and exciting. There will be clear indication in the letter that goes out, to people who receive it, of their eligibility. But anyone who has a net metering solar project on their house should not receive an indication that they can join the community solar program. So yes is the answer.
Great, thank you.
And I'm sorry again, I should have had you give the greeting with me at the beginning. So thank you for being here.
No, thank you.
Any other questions? I'm here, there's no rush. I'll stay here with awkward silence to give people time to think about a question too. I've booked here for another half an hour before I have to go sledding with my kids, or get to go sledding with my kids. Let me rephrase that. It is, I do love snow. I'm so loving this weather. So I apologize to people who don't.
I'm sorry, may I ask one more question while you're waiting for a new customer, a new conversation? Does that mean that if one gets solar, things on their roof and is being supplied with solar, that you are not qualified to join this program? I didn't really understand what you just said.
Yeah, no, it's confusing. And you know, we're going to explain this a lot because it's a lot to take in. So there are two separate programs. And let me go back up to my menu slides. This one, my analogy of being a restaurant menu here. There's two programs that we're talking about being available. The one that will definitely be rolling forward if the program moves forward is the electricity supply portion of the program. And jumping down to my utility bill, again, this is the portion of the program that goes here in the middle of my utility bill. It's the line item, the rate for supply. If you have solar on your house, that is a separate decision. It's the right side table from the electricity supply decision. So you can be part of the electricity supply portion of the program, you know, that fixed rate, if you want to take advantage of it. If Gardiner goes forward with an opt-out community solar program, or you know, if they choose to stay with an opt-in, allowing people to opt into it, if you have solar on your house, which is choice B on the right, you cannot do community solar. So that's the one you cannot. But for the supply, you know, if you're in B, which you asked about, you just said, hey, I'm in B. Can I do 1, 2, or 3? Or 3 is the CCA. The answer is yes. You still have a supply decision to make.
Thanks.
Jeff?
Yes.
This is Mark.
Hello, Mark.
I just wanted to clarify my statement in the chat.
Please.
There was a question or a statement made that an ESCO had sent out a report stating that they were using not only green sources for their power, but many different fossil fuel and other kinds of sources, including nuclear. I've seen reports sent out by ESCOs that are also servicing CCAs and green energy projects, but they must include, I believe, all of their sources of energy. And they are providing lots of different mixes of energy for lots of different purposes. And that's why the statement looks like it's erroneous.
Yeah, there are increasing requirements on the ESCOs too, because of the bad experiences. And so those reporting requirements are necessary, one. But two, and you're saying, is it just about the disclosure statement, or are you saying that there's something erroneous about what they're doing?
No, it's not erroneous, but it's misleading, because if you're one of their green customers, you're seeing all of the other kinds of products they provide, and it makes it seem like you're getting all of those products in your agreement with that ESCO. It's very confusing.
No, it is.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a lot to navigate. I just want to say, Andy, I see you said, can we reach you later via phone or email with additional questions? Absolutely. There's the program helpline right at the top of this slide, the 845-859-9099. That's, you can get me or Roberto or Jake or one of our Joule counterparts too. And there's my email, cca@hudsonvalleyenergy.org. Please do contact us with other questions. Happy to help out. Any other questions or comments? I'm still here. There will be other presentations, many more. You know, this is just the start of our outreach efforts. And I apologize that we don't have a date shown, but we're going to definitely be picking a date early next week. Again, please put your email address in the chat window if you want to be on that list, just to receive notices about other events that are taking place. And you would receive notices about public events in Gardiner and Saugerties, Gardiner, of course, but Saugerties and Rhinebeck, and possibly even Putnam Valley as we roll forward. But thank you all. I hear people are leaving, but thank you all for being here. I'll stay here. Just keep an eye on the chat. And yeah, thank you all. Again, still here if you want to ask a question.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Really appreciate it. Did a great job presenting a not so easy topic to really take in. So great job. And
thank you so much.
If there's anything that comes up in further questions or anyone contacting you or your team, by all means, obviously reach out. Be happy to help in any way we can.
All right. Thank you so much again, Franco. This is great. And again, yeah, so I'm so glad you're here, and I'll remember next time because
No,
it's great.
absolutely.
So people know this is a town thing. So it's wonderful. All right. Well, I'll stay here for a few more minutes. I'm not going to just shut down. I promise to be here in case anyone shows up too. These used to be, when we did these in person, they were open houses, and I would definitely stay the full time just in case anybody walked in late and maybe got the time wrong. So I'm going to stay here, and I'll, feel free to engage in chat. I'm going to make sure I'm going to leave up my information right there so people can take it down and contact us later. For the sake of everyone, I'm going to stop recording for those who watch it, so I don't have to keep listening to nothing. I'll stop the recording now.